Move. The word cracked through the air like a whip. Emily Carter's hands clenched tighter around the worn rims of her wheelchair. She had rolled herself toward the carousel to watch the painted horses blur into a rainbow of color, but now the world narrowed to the three figures standing in front of her. They weren't smiling kindly. They were smirking, mocking, daring, circling like hyenas that had caught a scent. The tallest one, a guy with a gaudy floral shirt unbuttoned halfway down his chest, tilted his head and leaned closer. His breath reeked of cheap beer and arrogance. "Did you hear me?" I said. "Move." Emily's stomach twisted, but she forced her voice steady. "I'm not in your way." The man's laugh cut sharp and cruel. His boot shot forward, colliding with the side of her chair. The jolt rattled through her spine, pitching her sideways so far she almost toppled onto the wooden planks. Gasps rippled around them, but no one stepped closer. Mothers tugged their kids away. Couples pretended not to notice. A man with a camera kept filming the ocean instead of the cruelty unfolding just feet away. Her chair wobbled back into balance. Her breath came shallow. She wanted to disappear, but the laughter pierced her like knives. "Look at this," one of the others jeered, his denim vest frayed at the shoulders. "Bet she can't even stand without help." The third doubled over, howling, slapping his knee. Their voices carried above the music and laughter of the pier, making the humiliation impossible to hide. Emily's throat burned. 19 years old, and she thought she had grown numb to the stares, the whispers, the pity. But this wasn't pity. It was cruelty painted in broad daylight. What cut deepest wasn't just their words. It was the silence of everyone else. And then the ground seemed to change. At first, it was faint, a low, steady vibration crawling through the boards beneath her wheels. Then it grew. Engines. Dozens of them. A rolling thunderstorm spilling onto the pier. The bullies faltered mid-laugh, their grins stiffening as chrome flashed in the California sun. Motorcycle after motorcycle glided to a stop, lined in rows like steel soldiers. Leather jackets creaked as riders swung their boots onto the boards. Men with weathered faces, women with braided hair under helmets, younger bikers with fire still fresh in their eyes. Tattoos told stories of survival and rebellion. They weren't smiling. They weren't joking. They moved forward as one, a tide of broad shoulders and unflinching eyes. The crowd that had turned away suddenly found the courage to look back. Phones lifted to capture the scene. The air thickened, charged with something heavier than fear, justice, waiting to be delivered. The man in the floral shirt stepped back. "Hey, we were just kidding." But his words were drowned out by the unified sound of boots striking the pier. And for the first time that day, Emily felt something bloom in her chest. Not fear, not shame, hope. Jason's grin slipped. The tattoos on his arms didn't look so bold anymore, not with the sound of boots striking wood closing in on him. Tyler shifted his weight, glancing over his shoulder as if the pier itself had turned hostile. Mark, the one who'd laughed the loudest, swallowed hard and shoved his hands into his vest pockets. The swagger was gone. Dozens of riders closed the gap, their black leather vests stitched with insignias that glinted under the sun. But it wasn't the patches that carried weight. It was the brotherhood in their stride, the silent, immovable force of them together. A wall of steel and resolve bore down on the three bullies who had thought cruelty would go unchallenged. Emily Carter could barely breathe. Just minutes ago she had felt alone, cornered, her voice lost beneath jeers. Now the entire pier was hushed, the only sound the heavy rhythm of boots and the distant creak of the Ferris wheel. The scene looked unreal, like something that belonged on a movie screen instead of in her life. The leader emerged from the crowd of bikers, a giant of a man with a silver beard and eyes that burned with calm fury. He didn't shout, didn't swing his fists. He didn't need to. He stopped just a breath away from Jason, arms folding across his chest, the weight of his stare so sharp it could have cut through steel. The other riders fanned out behind him, sealing Emily inside their circle. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel exposed. She felt shielded, seen. Jason's voice cracked. "Hey, we were just messing around." But the excuse collapsed under the silence. No one laughed. No one believed him. The pier had turned into a stage, and the crowd, once too timid to intervene, now watched with wide eyes, phones lifted, waiting to see what justice looked like. Tyler tugged on Jason's arm. "Let's go, man." His voice was barely above a whisper. Mark muttered curses, but even those lacked venom as he stared at the ground. They shuffled backward, smaller with every step, until they disappeared into the swarm of onlookers who parted to let them flee. The bullies had walked in loud and brash. They left quiet, humiliated, and utterly powerless. The leader crouched, his towering frame lowering until his steady eyes met Emily's. "You're safe now," he said, his voice low and gravelly, yet threaded with kindness that reached deeper than any apology she had ever heard. Her throat closed. The tears she'd fought so hard to contain finally spilled over. She nodded, unable to form words. Around her, the bikers softened. A few smiled and gave her nods of reassurance. One rested a weathered hand lightly on her chair. Another lifted a thumb skyward, as if to say she wasn't alone. Not broken. Not less. Worth every ounce of protection they had brought. The crowd erupted in applause. Children clapped with both hands. Parents wiped their eyes. Strangers leaned in to squeeze her shoulder with shy smiles. The pier buzzed not with cruelty, but with courage returned in kind. The Ferris wheel spun lazily above them. The ocean breeze tangled Emily's hair. In that single California afternoon, what could have been a memory of humiliation was rewritten into something else entirely. Proof that kindness could be stronger than hate. Days later, the videos surfaced everywhere. Clips of the moment the bikers closed ranks around her, the bullies shrinking away, the leader's quiet promise caught on dozens of phones. Millions watched. Comments poured in. Some shared times they had been defended, others confessed to moments of silence they regretted. The story became larger than Emily's. It became a spark. Kindness protects. People wrote again and again, a chorus echoing across screens and borders. And Emily, sitting in her chair with the sea outside her window, finally believed it. For once, the world had not just watched. It had stood up.